Hello and welcome to Studio A. I'm Michael Lozick. Joining me today are Raisha Scholl, Ryder Burke, Kenneth Ruddy, and Kaylin Davis. Today, we're looking at the unequal treatment received by Korean War veterans and Vietnam veterans, parking problems in downtown San Marcos, and where have all the food trucks gone? Those stories and more next on Studio A. Our recent elevated tensions with North Korea have once again put the so-called forgotten war back in the spotlight. Ryder Burke says that one forgotten element is the Korean War veteran.
Michael, some research done right here at Texas State finds that there's been a difference in the way Korean War vets have been treated versus the Vietnam War vets, and I wanted to find out how.
The United States began using Agent Orange to kill off foliage as part of its herbicidal warfare program in 1961 and continued for 10 years across Vietnam and various other locations, including the Korean DMZ. What was originally considered a harmless herbicide was determined to actually contain a deadly chemical by the name of dioxin. It was a Texas State master's research thesis by Heather M. Haley that resurfaced this to many's attention. I followed up with one of the veterans she interviewed to get a little more insight.
It was sprayed along the DMZ fence. It was sprayed anywhere where there might be a concern for an ambush or something like that. But then as the water runs off, it goes into other areas that are just, farming areas, any kind of areas like that. And so you wind up being exposed to it basically just by being in the area.
Only soldiers who served in the DMZ from 1968 through 1971 were eligible to receive disability for their exposure. This limited time frame did not apply to anyone who served in Vietnam. Any American that served at any time in Vietnam was considered presumptive for any of the long list of diseases determined to be caused by dioxin.
Most of our dogs didn't sleep in a dog place. They slept with one of their GIs. And so the GIs were exposed from skin-to-skin contact with the animals. That was one of the ways. The Agent Orange, the dioxin, would have been distributed through the PT pit for physical training. A lot of it in Korea was Taekwondo, and so you're doing Taekwondo, you're always getting skinned up knees and elbows.
New research surfaced in 1998 that the dioxin chemical was actually toxic for 9 to 15 years after application. The Department of Veteran Affairs has chosen to not act on this new information, thus leaving behind thousands of DMZ veterans in need of the same help as their Vietnam counterparts.
If you enter the military, the unwritten contract is that you put your life on the line, and if you get hurt, they're going to take care of you. For the thousands and thousands and thousands of Vietnam veterans, that's the case. If you're a Korean DMZ veteran, that's not the case. A very limited 4-year period is the only time that it's presumptive for you to get the care that you need.
If you were to even set foot in all 128,000 square miles of Vietnam during the war, and you were diagnosed with any of the diseases from the presumptive list, you and your family received disability for your exposure to dioxin. However, the same chemical was used in the DMZ, which is a 640 square mile strip, until 1969, and veterans were limited to a specific location and a specific time frame in order to receive the same disability for their exposure.
We highlight the last forgotten remnants of the last forgotten war, their ongoing struggle for equality, and how a Texas State grad student may have sparked a light of hope at the end of a cold, dreary DMZ tunnel. There's no better opportunity for no soldier left behind than now. For Studio A, I'm Ryder Burke.
So, Ryder, that was a very interesting story. What can we do to help the DMZ veterans?
Well, Kaylin, it's a legislative matter, so if you're just active in your community, talk to your representatives, ask the right questions, and just get involved.
Hays County veterans will make a special trip to the nation's capital in September. Patrick Vandehays says they're part of Honor Flight.
Nonprofit group Honor Flight Austin will take 40 veterans from World War II, Korea, and Vietnam to Washington, D.C. to see the monuments that were built in their honor. Honor Flight Austin Chairman Dwayne James says the trip is a life-changing experience for the veterans.
The welcome home that they get when they come back is just overwhelming, and many of them, get very emotional, teary-eyed. Just can't believe that people care that much.
Unfortunately, with each passing day, it becomes more difficult to find veterans capable of making the trip. Veteran Service Officer Jude Prather says that the mission is time-sensitive.
Every day we're losing World War II veterans, and we're losing a piece of our American history. And that's why it's so important, so special, that they can go on one last mission, together with their mates that they served with during war, to see these memorials there in Washington, D.C.
Honor Flight relies on word of mouth between veterans and communities such as retirement homes, churches, and other organizations to find capable bodies for the flight. Word eventually reaches veterans like Cecil Chandler, who says the trip brought him a sense of closure.
It became important, and important to know that even though I wasn't an armed soldier going out and fighting on the fields, I was doing something that was important. And that's the first time it really dawned on me.
Despite the race against time, James says he's confident they'll have a full 40 by the end of September. For Studio A, I'm Patrick Van Day.
Michael, have you been to that museum here in San Marcos?
No, I haven't, but it looks really interesting, and I think I should check it out one of these days.
For sure.
Parking on the square can be a nightmare, but in March, new technology was implemented to prevent students from dropping their cars off there in lieu of paying for a parking permit. I went down there to see how effective the new change has been. It's been just over a year since a 2-hour time limit has been implemented to cars on the square. Originally, cars were simply monitored by marking a tire with chalk, but since March, license plate tracking technology has made it much harder to avoid getting ticketed. This has been having a negative effect on both people visiting the square as well as the many people employed there.
I'm a student here at Texas State, and I've also worked down here on the square, and this 2-hour parking stuff is just, it's awful. I mean, if you're working down here, and you have to move your car, every 2 hours, even when you move your car, it doesn't matter, it still tracks you in the same area, and big piling up on tickets. And these tickets, if you're working for 3 hours, I mean, you're barely even covering how much they cost.
What was originally introduced to prevent students from taking up valuable parking spots on the square has backfired for some. Everyone is at risk of getting ticketed under this new system. People showing up to get their hair done or going in to get a tattoo have to be careful to monitor how long their vehicle has been parked.
One of my buddies was down here getting a tattoo a couple weeks ago and ended up taking a bit longer than he anticipated, and came out and he had a ticket. It's supposed to help him, a customer in this area, but it's not making things easier at all for him to park down here, or anybody else for that matter.
While it was originally intended to help both customers and employees of the square, this new system seems to have unintended consequences. Unless something else can be brought up to help alleviate the problem, like metered parking, there doesn't seem to be any help along the way. For Studio A, I'm Michael Lozick.
Michael, I've had my fair share of, let's say, run-ins with the towing company. Have these new changes affected you at all?
So thankfully, they haven't impacted me that much, but there's definitely some of my friends that have been getting tickets, and it's a big problem that we need to figure out a solution for. Coming up on Studio A, the Rainbow Room, a place for foster kids. And where have all the food trucks gone? Those stories and more after this message.
Not everyone can go to college right after high school. Not everyone is your run-of-the-mill student. Life can be hard, but going back to school doesn't have to be. Whether it be becoming a parent, getting married, serving in the military, or any other obstacle life has thrown your way, the non-traditional student organization at Texas State is here to help. NTSO was established to address the specific needs of non-traditional students by providing professional and social networks, scholarships, volunteer projects, and connections to other campus events in order to help make their Texas State experience a successful and smooth one. Life gets in the way. NTSO is here to help you navigate the crowd. Get in touch with NTSO by visiting their website or by visiting the NTSO Lounge located on the 4th floor of the LBJ Student Center.
For children placed in foster homes, life can be tough. An organization called the Rainbow Room aims to help foster kids who are placed in the care of Child Protection Service. Amanda King says that Rainbow Rooms are always in need of more assistance.
The Rainbow Room is a resource center open 24 hours and 7 days a week for children whose lives are in crisis. They provide brand new hygiene products, diapers, clothing, toys, and more. I had the opportunity to speak with Brenda Jones, who is the Rainbow Room coordinator. She is responsible for the management of 29 Rainbow Rooms within 30 counties in Region 7. While the Rainbow Room in Austin has plenty of resources to help these children, the Rainbow Rooms in the smaller surrounding counties aren't so fortunate.
Well, I'm there to help them with Rainbow Rooms find resources. More of the rural areas don't have enough resources in their counties, and I help them with resources here in Austin. Resources here in Austin are really great, and I can provide them with clothing, shoes, hygiene products, and things like that to help them in their Rainbow Room, because more of the rural areas only have just maybe a general store or a Walmart, so they're lacking resources, and I help them with resources in their counties.
Brenda says the Rainbow Room is a caseworker's first stop when a child is taken from their family.
Most of the time when we remove a child, we only have what the child is wearing. And a caseworker can come in here 24/7 and pick out anything that they need, from hygiene products to clothes to toys to build rapport to snacks for the trip to their destination. Whatever they need, all they have to do is come into a Rainbow Room, check out the items, and it's theirs to keep.
If you want to help out your local Rainbow Room, Brenda says they are always accepting donations.
We can always need everyone's help by buying hygiene products, by buying diapers and wipes, and not so much as toys, but clothing. We always need clothing of all sizes, from babies, infants, to kids that are 18. In our Rainbow Room, we serve every child for every need. So anything that you can possibly give us is pretty much used in our Rainbow Room.
For StudioA, I'm Amanda King.
Michael, these kids are going through so much so early on that it's great that they're getting these resources in order to help them out.
No, this seems like a really great company supporting a really important issue. For several years, food trucks were a fixture in downtown San Marcos. But Kaylin Davis says there's been a change.
Well, Michael, there are still a few food trucks spread out around San Marcos, but most of the ones that we know and love from the Hitch, they moved. So I wanted to find out why.
The Hitch, located right off of Hopkins Street, was open since 2011 and quickly became a popular eating and meeting spot for locals and college students. Since 2011, the Hitch has welcomed more than 20 food trucks, but the glory days ended just last winter. Food truck owners say they were forced to leave San Marcos due to new strict health code regulations adopted by the city of San Marcos. So, where are the food trucks now, you ask? Vendors either permanently closed or chose to relocate outside of San Marcos over the last few months. St. Peter's, which served Greek food such as gyros, relocated to Middleton Brewing Company in Wimberley to be closer to the food truck's mothership restaurant, the Leaning Pear.
We were going to Middleton just to go there, and then it was we found our favorite food truck again, so it's kind of nice.
Owner Matthew Buchanan put out a tweet letting all the customers know that they are still open for business in a new home. Dreamland and Paddy Wagon moved to the Junction Drinkery and Eatery in Wimberley. Wanderlust is now at the Zilker Food Park in Austin. Smoked Out Barbecue and El Sabor de mi Tierra closed permanently according to an October 31st announcement on the Hitch's Facebook page. And you'll find Mambo Freeze and Kyle in front of the H-E-B.
And just like that, we tracked down a few of your favorites that left the Hitch. You have 3 of your favorites down in Wimberley, just a 15-minute drive away. Or if you ever needed to stop and cool off with a snow cone, Mambo Freeze is here in Kyle in front of the H-E-B. For StudioA, I'm Kaylin Davis.
So Kaylin, how did you track them down?
Well, actually, all of their addresses are in one big article online. But yeah, it was pretty easy to find them, and I'm glad that they're only 15 minutes away.
That's our newscast for this week and for summer semester. StudioA will be back in the fall, and you can check us out on our YouTube page. For Raisha Scholl, Ryder Burke, Kenneth Ruddy, and Kaylin Davis, I'm Michael Lozick. Have a great summer.